Good morning. I, Jayati Bansal, will be presenting the PPT on the topic Violence Against Women. A month ago, my neighbor was a victim of domestic violence. She was tortured and kept in a small dingy room by her husband and even by her own son. In recent months, there were several rape cases heard of in India, but none were taken in account. Hence, the motive of this presentation is to reach out to women, explaining them that violence is not inevitable and it can be prevented. And if not stopped, violence takes many forms and can result in psychological deprivation to physical harm and even death. WHO has provided a specific definition about the term violence. According to WHO, the intentional use of physical force or power, threatened or actual, against oneself, another person, or against a group or community that either results in or has a high likelihood of resulting in injury, death, psychological harm, maldevelopment, or deprivation. According to the definition, the attention is not only drawn towards the physical force but also to the use of threatened or actual power and verbal abuse. Some of the alarming facts given by National Crime Bureau and UN states that 1 in 3 women and girls experience physical or sexual violence in their lifetime. The facts also shows us that 200 million women and girls have undergone female genital mutilation and almost 750 women alive today were married before their 18th birthday. One of the most disturbing facts is that worldwide 71% of all humans trafficking victims are women and 3 out of 4 of these women are sexually exploited. Let's go on understanding why mostly women are the victim of violence. Violence against women is also referred to as gender-based violence. Why? Because it is the result of women's subordinate status in the society. The cause of violence against women is women's low status in the home and community. Women are considered less valuable and subordinate to men, and men are seen as having power and strength to control a woman. Violence can take many forms at various stages of our life. Starting from childhood till elderly, violence against women never stops. In childhood, girls become a victim of female genital mutilation, child marriage, human trafficking, rape, overwork, malnutrition, child abuse, and even emotional abuse and neglects are very common forms of violence that a woman has to face in her childhood. As she grows up in her adolescent years, she becomes a victim of verbal harassment, physical abuse, trafficking, femicide, catcalling, acid attack, forced prostitution, and the list never ends. In her reproductive age, the violence that a woman has to face are domestic violence, dowry related violence, violence during her pregnancy, unwanted pregnancies, physical and verbal abuse by partner, forced prostitution, trafficking, marital rape. The cost and consequences illustrates a massive drain on individuals, family, community, and society. Health consequences affect women and their families in many ways possible. Economic consequences such as productive days are lost because of violence. Health, emotional and psychological consequences for girls who experience violence as children affect not only them and their families but can also spiral across future generations. It is also believed that in some countries, violence against women is estimated to cost countries up to 3.7% of their GDP, more than the double of what government spends on education. Women loses the right to a full and healthy life as an equal citizen of the society. Sexual harassment and abuse undercut women and girls' right to use public spaces as freely as men do. Violence faced by women can lead women to be vulnerable, also result in high exposure of sexually transmitted diseases. They might have bruises, bleeding, broken bones, organ damage, fetus damage, low birth weight, trauma, and even death. Based on the data of National Commission of Women tells us that women has faced higher rates of domestic violence, sexual assault and rape during the times of COVID-19. Violence against women tends to increase during every type of emergencies, including epidemics. Violence, particularly intimate partner or domestic violence on women and children, are significant. It can result in injuries, sexual and reproductive health problems, unplanned pregnancies, and sexually transmitted infections, stress, and trauma. Even when formal and informal mechanisms exist to help women against violence, some women do not disclose or seek care. Why? Because they consider violence as a normal and inevitable aspect of marriage. On the other hand, women do not disclose because of fear and additional violence if their spouse finds out. Some women believe that disclosing would resolve nothing and would put themselves into more trouble. That is why there is a need to strengthen our health system and health service delivery system. Even our health care providers' capacity to respond should be strengthened. The programming and policy making against violence should also needs to get strengthened. We need to integrate prevention and response health policies, plans and programs and budgets to help women who face violence who need to provide quality care to survivors. Also, we need to train our healthcare providers and integrate training on ways to deal with the victim. Violence is not inevitable. Violence can be prevented. Keeping this in mind, the United Nations General Assembly designated 25th November as the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. Today, violence against women is recognized as a critical public health and fundamental human rights issue.
Globally, 1 in 3 women and girls worldwide have experienced physical or
1
sexual
in 3
violence
women
during
experience
their
violence
lifetime.
at the hands of their husband or partner.
Less than 40% of
That's
them
over
seek help
800
of any
million
sort.
women worldwide.
And of these, only 10% seek
These
support
women can
from
feel
police.
trapped,
And
afraid.
of all women who were victims
Their
of
lives are
homicide
often
worldwide in
restricted.
2012, 50%
Those who
were
consider
killed by
leaving
intimate partners
often fear
or
ending up
family members.
penniless or losing their
This
children.
situation cannot be overlooked.
Over time,
And although
their
progress has
confidence
been
slips
made,
away,
the end of
making a
violence
life
against
without
women and
violence
girls is
seem a
far from
distant
today's
memory.
reality.
The abuse can lead to injuries, as well as
UN
serious
Women
physical
is
and
committed to
mental
this
health
cause
problems.
and
In
works
some
with governments,
cases,
national
even death.
actors,
Many
women's
women contract
organizations,
sexually
and the civil
transmitted
society
infections
to
or have
end violence
unwanted
against all
pregnancies.
women and
And
girls.
when pregnant,
The
have a
international
greater risk of
community
miscarriage
recently
or
agreed
of having
that
a
ending
premature
violence
or
against
low birth
women
weight
and
baby.
girls is an important
They can
target
experience
for a
depression,
sustainable
anxiety,
future and a
other
crucial
mental health
matter to
problems,
achieve
or
the
become addicted to drugs
SDGs.
and
During
alcohol.
this process, we must
It can be
make
hard
sure
to
that
know
we
who to
reach the
trust
lost
and
woman.
where to turn. But
By
there
its
is a place
presence in
they
more
can
than
go.
85 countries on all world
visit to a
regions,
local clinic
UN Women
is often
actively
one of the few
contributes to making
opportunities
this
women
possible.
have to go out alone.
We support countries in
And it's
many
important
ways,
for doctors and
including
nurses to
adopting,
make sure this isn't a
implementing, and
missed
evaluating
opportunity.
comprehensive laws
When
and
doctors,
policies,
nurses,
addressing
and
the root
midwives
causes
listen
of
with
violence
compassion,
through prevention
survivors are more
strategies
likely
and
to share
working
their
with
story.
communities to change the social
When they ask the
norms.
right questions, they can uncover what is really happening
Ensuring
and
that
challenge
essential
cultural
services and
attitudes
support
that say
are
it's okay
accessible
for
to
a
all
husband to hit his
survivors.
wife. They can reassure women that it's not their fault,
and collecting
and can
data
work with
and
women to
conducting
help them
analysis
stay safe.
to fully
And where
understand the
necessary,
nature
connect
and
them
extent
with other
of the
services
problem.
that can provide, for example, shelter, psychological support, legal services, and financial opportunities.
You
More
and
women
Women
can find their
envisions
way
a
to a
world where
life
all
without
women
violence
and
when
girls
changes
are
are
equal and
implemented
empowered
across
members of
healthcare and other
society,
systems.
free of all
Changes
forms
such
of
as
discrimination
private
and
rooms for
violence by
consultations,
2030. But
training
let's
that
not wait
enables
until
doctors
then.
and nurses to respond better to
Let's
women's
act
needs.
now.
And
We
raising
need your
awareness
help and
of the
commitment
harmful
to make
consequences
sure
of
that we
violence
reach
for
the
women and
last
children
woman.
and how to prevent
Together
it.
we can make it happen.
Making these
If not
changes
now,
helps foster a
when?
culture where violence is
If not you,
unacceptable and
who?
where women have the courage to speak out. Imagine if that could happen to each and every one of those 800 million women.
Thank you.